We departed on Friday, the 3rd of August, in the year of 1492, from the Bar of Salts at 8 o'clock, and proceeded with a strong sea breeze until sunset, towards the south for 60 miles, equal to 15 leagues, afterwards southwest and west southwest, which was the course for the Canaries. Through his 4 voyages, Christopher Columbus was a main factor of the distribution of foreign goods and new ideas throughout the world, though his intentions resulted in tragically causing the destruction of cultural diversity. This triumph brought centuries of praise to Columbus. They would make fine servants. With 50 men, we could subjugate them all and make them do whatever we want. This encounter with the natives was the first of many, each contributing to the tragedy that was the fall of the Native American culture. On the morning of October 13th, 1492, Columbus and his fleet reached land in the Americas, a momentous moment in his first voyage. As soon as they stepped off their ships, they were introduced to the Arawaks, specifically the Lucian tribe. Columbus noted, "They brought us parrots and balls of cotton, and spears and many other things, which they exchanged for the glass beads and hawks' bells. They willingly traded everything they owned. They were well built, with good bodies and handsome features." Although the Arawaks were extremely giving, kind, and compassionate, Columbus ceased to pay much mind to any of these qualities, for his only concern was how his men can benefit the most by using the natives for their own use. He then proceeded to kidnap the natives by force and withdraw all information possible from them in order to find gold to bring back to Spain. Because he was financed by the king and queen, Columbus had to find gold in order to make up for all the money lost in funding. Columbus also had selfish reasons which fueled the expedition. He was promised the title Admiral of the Ocean Sea, 10% of the profits from the expedition, and full governorship of the new found lands. After reaching the Americas, the Native American population began drastically depleting. Only 2 years later, half of the 250,000 Native Americans solely located on Haiti were dead due to diseases and being overworked. They began to mine every bit of every mountain until gold was found. Bartolome de las Casas, young priest and author of the History of the Indies multi-volume series, conveyed, "They suffered and died in the mines and other labors in desperate silence, knowing not a soul in the world to whom they could turn for help." The Native Americans were put through such excruciating work with nobody to rely on, nobody to turn to. Every encounter with the New World following this one resulted in a frenzy of interchange, now called the Columbian Exchange, which spread goods, ideas, and diseases throughout both the New World and Old World. Alfred W. Crosby, historian and author of the Columbian Exchange, explained, "The seams of Pangea were closing, drawn together by the sailmaker's needle. Chickens met kiwis, cattle met kangaroos, Irish met potatoes, Comanches met horses, Incas met smallpox, all for the first time." The Columbian Exchange created both triumphs and tragedies, but of the tragedies, the most prominent was the spread of diseases. Columbus, as well as many other voyagers, began spreading many fatal and dangerous diseases, which the Native Americans had no immunity against. Some of these diseases included smallpox, measles, chickenpox, malaria, yellow fever, influenza, and the common cold. Conquistador y Pestilencia once relayed, "The greatest Indian killer had been an epidemic of smallpox." This testimony is hard to reject, for another document in 1527 mentions the necessity of importing Aboriginal slaves into Panama City, Nada, and the port of Honduras, because smallpox had carried off all of the Indians in those areas. The natives had never experienced these types of diseases. The Columbian Exchange resulted in a major depletion in the Native American population. This was a dominant tragedy in terms of all of history, for the Columbian Exchange was the main occurrence that threatened Native Americans. It is the largest reason that most of the natives died, severely reducing their population and ability to thrive and survive. In the words of Bartolome de las Casas, this deep, bloody American tragedy is now concluded, and my pen choked up with Indian blood and gore. Though it is an outstanding tragedy, looked at another way, the Columbian Exchange also served as one of the greatest triumphs to occur throughout history. After Columbus first stumbled upon the Americas, more European settlers and explorers began voyaging more frequently, which benefited both the eastern and western hemispheres. Thus, through his 4 voyages, Columbus had begun the Columbian Exchange, which shared plants, animals, cultures, and ideas around the world. They brought the bread of nyamas, which are tubers and look like large radishes. These are planted in all of their fields and are their staff of life. They make bread from them and boil and roast them, and they taste like chestnuts. Columbus recounts in his journal the experience of trying nyamas, known commonly as manioc, for the first time. This became one of the many goods that were introduced to the New World. Almost half of the food grown throughout the world today originated from the Americas. These are crops such as corn, potatoes, sweet potatoes, beans, tomatoes, manioc, squash, peanuts, pineapples, and blueberries. In return, the Africans, Europeans, and Asians brought over goods such as bananas, black pepper, citrus fruits, coffee, garlic, onions, lettuce, peaches, pears, sugar, wheat, rye, and oats. In addition to spreading new crops around the world, many animals were also exchanged in the process. Some animals that originated from the Americas were guinea pigs, llamas, and turkeys. From Afro-Eurasia came cattle, chickens, donkeys, goats, horses, house cats, mice, rats, pigs, rabbits, and sheep. The frenzy of interchange also allowed for many religions and cultures to be spread throughout the world. Christianity was progressing as a prominent religion, and languages such as English and Spanish were spread to the Native Americans. The constant voyaging also allowed for new trade routes to be found. This enabled new ways to reach places, which boosted the progression of the Columbian Exchange. The Columbian Exchange let the world evolve as a whole and improve, which can be counted as one of the greatest triumphs in history. So in the end, Columbus was one of the main factors in the cause of the destruction of the Native Americans and their culture. He was once a slave trader in Spain, and throughout his 4 voyages, he forcefully spread Christianity, as well as the fact that settlers from the Eastern Hemisphere brought new diseases to the Western Hemisphere and vice versa. These are all tragic aspects of the legacy of Columbus. But to many, Christopher Columbus was and still is looked up to due to his transformational work that affected the whole world. Through his 4 voyages, Columbus began the Columbian Exchange, which shared plants, animals, cultures, and ideas around the world. He was a bold navigator and envisioned a way of uniting varied countries in trade. These triumphant ideas are tragically marred by his cultural criticism, prejudices, and exploitations of Native people. Though he may have just been a single person out of the 108.5 billion people who have ever existed on Earth, Columbus is certainly one who stands out from the rest. Each of his actions brought many triumphs and tragedies which altered and sculpted the world that we know today.